So, USC's football season isn't even over yet. Everyone's already looking to the future, and the transfer portal just opened. You're going to see players coming and going, plus a lot of grades coming out. That's what's coming up next on this episode of Locked On USC.
You are Locked On Trojans, your daily podcast on the USC Trojans, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Fight on, everyone. I'm your host, Mark Holkin, and thank you for making Locked On USC your first listen every day. Whether you like to watch on YouTube or wherever you like to download your podcast, we are free. And I really want to say thank you to everyone who's coming along for the ride. Hope you're enjoying the show. If you're watching on YouTube and you haven't done so already, do me a favor, hit that subscribe button. It really means a lot. And always thank you to the ones who have. You can also follow me on my Twitter at Mark Culkin, MarkKulkin. This episode of Locked on USC is sponsored by Omaha Steaks. Omaha Steaks is a gift from the heart, a gift that will be remembered with every unforgettable bite. Order with complete confidence today, knowing you're ordering the very best. Visit omahasteaks.com. Use promo code LOCKEDON and at the checkout, and then you're going to get that extra $30 off your order. All right. So the game against Utah is in the rearview mirror. And USC, they're still 11-2. They're still going to the Cotton Bowl. They're still playing Tulane. And it still sucks. Just not as much as it did the day before, from the day before that. That's the beauty of life. Life goes on. And you learn from your mistakes, and you just try and get better. And that's what we're going to do in this episode. We're going to throw out some grades for this past game, and we're going to find out how can USC get better. And obviously, that takes learning from your mistakes. That takes practice and recruiting and this new thing called the transfer portal. All that. So besides recruiting, this USC team is going to get better by practice. And they're going to have 15 more practice sessions to utilize before they take on the Tulane Green Wave in the Cotton Bowl New Year's weekend or day, whatever, in about 4 weeks and a few days, whatever it is. And basically what you want your team to do during this time is just to trying to get better and be a more consistent team. And for USC, consistency on defense is where they really need to put the emphasis. Everyone knows that this team in 2022 was carried by the offense with an opportunistic defense and a group of special teams that was just asked not to do anything dumb and contribute to a loss. And for the most part, special teams, they did their part. So, I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time with grades because on this game, look, bottom line is Caleb's injury affected how USC finished the game. Bottom line. And that's because USC did not have a lot of depth, again, specifically on the defense. And when the offense can't stay on the field and you have a defense that isn't up to a standard that they want to play at and what the fans anticipate and expect, and you don't have a lot of depth, eventually things are going to cave in, and they did. So let's just get to the grades rather than me just rambling on here. Offensively, look, outside a great first 3 series, they scored on all their first 3 offensive possessions. But outside of those first 3 series, team kind of looked bad. They had some nice moments mixed in. So quarterback Caleb Williams, before the hamstring, he was an A. After the hamstring, he still gets an A for an effort. Look, it is what it is. He half of his game completely disappeared when he wasn't able to use his legs to beat Caleb. He still threw the ball effectively for the most part. I mean, 360 yards, a few touchdowns, but it wasn't enough. It is what it is. I'm not going to grade Caleb too harshly on this, um, understanding that he was injured. As far as do you want to characterize Caleb as being selfless or selfish? And it's a fine line. It really is. Um, you know, that's always going to be up for interpretation, but it's never to be criticized. You you're not going to fault somebody who just wants to lay it all out on the field, lay it all out on the line, carry me off the field type of attitude, that mama mentality. And again, it wasn't his decision. I mean, I want to make sure I make this clear. Caleb's not going to say, "Hey, coach, take me out. I'm hurting the team." That's just not who he is. It's got to be up to Lincoln Riley to make that decision, or he's got to have somebody on his staff who say, "Hey, Lincoln, let's give Miller a shot. And if it doesn't work out, we can always put Caleb back in." Again, that's going to be the offseason question that just lingers, especially until USC plays another game. Offensive line, look, with no Andrew Voorhees at the beginning. Justin Dietrich looked really clunky from the start of the game. And we know Brett Nealon was lost in the fourth quarter. You hate to give a grade, but give him a C. There was no run game whatsoever. And when Caleb popped his hamstring, had that flat tire, that's not going to help the O-line. So a C. Running back C minus. Look, I know they need holes to run behind or run through, and I think Lincoln Riley even admitted he gave up on the run too early. But again, the combination of Caleb not being able to be a threat to run, the O-line not being up to at least being functional, and it's just that's not a winning combination. It's going to remind a lot of people what USC's offense looked like for the last couple of years before Lincoln Riley and Josh Henson took over, and meshed everything together, pass, run game, everything, to make it look as good as it did this year, for the most part. Wide receivers, you know what? Give them a B. They did what they could under the circumstances. But if I'm being honest, and I have to be, I think the Utah DBs probably had the bigger stops, the better plays when they needed them. There was that one play where Addison tripped, and there was another play where he got beat by Phillips at the goal line, knocked the ball away. Those were a couple scoring opportunities that went by the wayside. Defense, look, it was better, in my opinion, and I know this is really subjective. I thought they were better than what their stats showed, and the stats don't support what I'm about to say whatsoever. But look, they are who they are. They're a bad tackling team. They got no pressure on the quarterback the second time around, just like they did the first time around against Utah. Gentry, I think, had their one sack. Thule, for the most part, was non-existent again. So you got to give credit to Utah for being able to scheme and figure out how to stop Thule. Raylan Goforth had a great hit. He had the hit of the game. I mean, everyone remembers him popping Cam Rising's helmet off, and it was a perfectly legal shot. There was nothing dirty about it whatsoever. But there were also so many missed tackles, not just by Raylan, but the entire linebacking core, front seven, secondary, the entire team. It was bad. The safeties looked like they had never tackled before in their life or seen a Utah tight end again. Mekhi Blackman dropped an interception opportunity, and that gave Utah a second chance. They turned that into a touchdown. Their second, not the secondary, the defense gave up a 3rd and 19 that actually turned into a touchdown. So look, when the offense kind of ghosted itself in the second and third quarters, the defense did as well, again, as I think as well as they could have, considering the offense wasn't generating anything. So the defense was forcing punts. They only gave up the 7 points in the third quarter. Yeah, they gave up 14 points in the second, which allowed the game to be tied going into halftime. But again, after those first 3 offensive series, USC's offense disappeared. So I think eventually the defense just wore down in basically the last 10 minutes or so of the game, especially when the offense just couldn't go. So bottom line, the defense, they turned out to be what everyone feared at the beginning of the season. It just happened at the worst possible opportunity in that conference championship game. So defense, everybody, you guys get a C-. Look, we needed the time when you needed them to step up, whether the moment was too big, injuries, depth, it's just everything, that whole perfect storm finally came to fruition. And as it turned out, defense wasn't able to save the day. And that's why USC lost 2 times this year to the same team. So while that didn't taste good, you know what does taste good? Omaha steaks. Have you ever had an Omaha steak? Let me tell you what, I have. They're really good. And I hope someone gives me a gift of Omaha steaks. And I might give those out as a gift as well. The quality, the convenience, and everything you need to deliver an unforgettable holiday gift experience. Omaha Steaks is America's original butcher, and since 1917, and they are a holiday gift that's guaranteed to be loved. The holidays are here. Achieve gifting greatness when you give the gift of perfectly aged, tender, and delicious Omaha steaks. The steak experts at Omaha Steaks have put together a special curated gift package to help take the guesswork out of gifting and make you a holiday hero. So go to omahasteaks.com and use code locked on, that's one word, at the checkout, and you're going to get $30 off your order. You can send an assortment of mouth-watering favorites guaranteed to impress like the legendary Butcher's Cut Filet Mignon, air-chilled boneless chicken, ultra juicy burgers, and even easy to prepare comfort meals that are like really easy to prepare in a flash. Omaha Steaks are ready to ship your order right away, so shop early and beat the shopping rush. Go to omahasteaks.com and use promo code locked on at the checkout. Omaha Steaks is a gift from the heart, a gift that will be with every unforgettable bite. Order with complete confidence today, knowing you're ordering the very best. So go ahead and visit omahasteaks.com. Use promo code locked on at the checkout to get that extra $30 off your order. A minimum order may be required. I got a question for everyone here. Should Alex Grinch be replaced, or does he get a 1-year do-over? Considering came in, had some, pieces that were left over that he got to use, but he had to implement a new scheme with a lot of new players that came in during the offseason. Excuse me, I had to get a drink of water there. So we know that the transfer portal, they brought some really nice pieces, productive pieces for the defense in 2022. Most of the guys who showed up, though, that did the most, that were most productive, were probably on the offensive side of the ball. Obviously, Caleb Williams, Travis Dye, Jordan Addison, to name a few. But the defense, they also they had some productive playmakers that showed up. Mekhi Blackman from Colorado turned out to be pretty good at cornerback for USC. Shane Lee at linebacker. Eric Gentry, linebacker. I guess, that's where you would, if we're going to categorize, those would be your shelf contributors. And then, just behind those guys, you had Tyrone Taleni, defensive line, Solomon Byrd, rush end. He had his moments. Jacoby Covington, defensive back, cornerback. Bryson Shaw, Latrell McCutcheon at the safety position from Ohio State and Oklahoma, respectively. And then to a much lesser extent, you had Romello Height, who played rush end early in the season, but, seemed like he was hurt early and he couldn't get past that shoulder injury. And hopefully he'll be ready to go come spring camp. So, USC has some talent on the defensive side of the ball. The problem was they didn't really have enough talent, and depth obviously wasn't deep enough. So, you're losing Thule to the draft now. So, unless USC is going to come up with a really nice, lucrative NIL deal, and NIL deal, let's just assume that Thule's gone to the draft, and for good reason. I mean, I don't know if he finished. I'm not looking at the stats. I don't know if he finished leading the nation with sacks, but I know he was up there, probably top 5 at worst. Someone give me some feedback. Let me know. Everybody knows that Thule was really good rushing the quarterback. So it's not like I'm showing any signs of disrespect to him here. I believe after the Notre Dame game, he had 12.5 or 13.5 sacks. So that's where he finished, because I don't think he had one in the game against Utah. Going back to the question about Alex Grinch, the rush end is a really primary, important, significant position in his defense. And outside of, getting a handful of plays throughout the season, that position was pretty much void production. So is that the biggest issue? Corey Foreman panned out yet. Height hurts. See, it seems like Bird, he came in through the transfer portal. He had a few nice moments this season. And look, Nick Figueroa, Solomon, Tulia Pupu, they're not exactly speed rush guys. And I believe they're moving on after this season. Maybe Solo comes back, possibly Figueroa, but I believe him and Brandon Peely also will leave, ready, moving on. There's another need. Can USC get some more help through the transfer portal? Stick around. We're going to be talking about that here in a few moments in our next segment. Will a healthy Damani Jackson and Zion Branch, freshman, will they be ready in the spring, and will they be available to bring production right away? Everybody knows Zion came in highly recruited. Same with Damani Jackson. Now you've got a couple of 5-stars at cornerback and safety. If you're into the recruiting rankings, who are going to be expected to contribute immediately. So is that again? Do you give Alex Grinch another year to make sure his players are in place and USC can replace, get more depth in there? You hate to say better players because you don't want to throw shade. I guess that's the way the younger generation says. You don't want to throw shade at Trojans. They're there because they were recruited. So whether they're being processed, forced out, or they're moving on their own volition, we'll never know. If we do, I'm not going to let you know either. That's just, there's nothing to be gained from that type of information. And again, can the transfer portal drop off talent right away? As I mentioned, Tuli's gone, Nicky Figueroa's gone, Brandon Peely, those guys, he's gone. And then you wonder about the guys behind them. Who's going to stick around? Who's moving forward? Kobe Pepe, Dejon Benton. He saw action. He saw action throughout the season, but he kind of tapered off at the end of the year. Earl Barquette, he transferred in last year. Never saw the field this year. So I guess what I'm saying here, anticipate some more movement coming up because the defense needs some help. So again, if you're Lincoln Riley, do you stay loyal? Or, if you have a better option out there for consideration, do you jump on it? Lincoln's being paid a lot of money, and it's to bring home championships. It's not to be loyal to your coaching staff. At a certain point, the hard decision has to be made. Does Dante Williams possibly leaving? There's some scuttlebutt that he's up for the UNLV head coaching job. Does that change the calculus? He was the only holdover from the Clay Helton regime. Alex Grinch and his defense is concerned. Look, they created a lot of turnovers. They led the nation in plus-minus turnover margin. And the defense, when you watch them play, you're like, ugh, they weren't very good this year. But they were better than Trojan teams have been in recent years. But that's the thing. They got better, but they still need to get a lot better, especially if this team wants to get past the conference championship game and into the playoffs. Anyway, bottom line is this. This year's defense, they were opportunistic. And when you consider Alex Grinch's past stops, they've got some highlights, but they've got some lowlights as well. When you peel back the layers, his defense has some flaws. It's highly reliant on the rush ends, creating pressure and getting to the quarterback and creating turnovers. You got half of that this year. The other half was non-existent, barely around. You figure out which part. We know USC created turnovers this year. There's your hint. There's your clue. USC needs to get better in that front seven. Defensive line and linebackers. So again, anyway, like I said, the team, they still have a game to prepare for. And let's just be honest, the defense is going to be the number one priority this offseason, any way you slice it. So we're going to pause this podcast here for a second, okay? Just for a quick second. Because you got to try this. And I'm talking about Built Bar's new reimagined flavors. You got the cookie dough topper, you got the coconut brownie bar, and the coconut brownie topper. White chocolate peppermint granola. It's Built's take on the granola bar, so it's more filling and still insanely tasty. And candy cane brownie puff. Built Puffs are like biting into the universe's most delicious cloud, okay? These are getting really descriptive and really good. First off, for anyone who hasn't tried Built Bars before, they're literally the best tasting protein bars ever built. They're revolutionizing nutrition as we know it with 100% real chocolate, 17 grams of protein, and shockingly low sugar and calories. In fact, only 130 calories. So just sink your teeth into that first bite and it'll change your life forever. I'm not kidding. There will be a time before you try these new Built. There will be a time before you tried these new Built flavors, and the magical, wonderful time afterwards. You're probably wondering which new flavor is my favorite. I'm a brownie guy, so there you go. So get out there, get 15% off your order right now by using the code LOCKEDON15 at built.com. That's promo code LOCKEDON15 at built.com, and try those new flavors. They're really good. All right, you ready for the transfer portal? It's open. Here we go. The off season is officially upon us. Uh, Look, everyone was anticipating a kind of a running with the bulls type of event when it opened, and oh my Pamplona, day one is officially in the books. Um, Players are going to have a 45-day window that's basically open between December 5th and January 18th, 2023. Then there's a second portal window that they can will be open on May 1st, and that one lasts for only 15 days. Those windows will dictate when players may enter the portal. Those who do so can commit to or enroll at the school of their choice at any time, depending on that school's academic calendar. So, day one, there were over 500 names that entered into the portal, and USC saw a number of their family members jump in. It was time to make the decision to move on to the next chapter in their lives. Even former Trojans like Keaton Slovis, they're kind of getting a feel for the free agency game, and that's what the transfer portal is. Let's just be real. So, Keaton Slovis, he's leaving Pittsburgh after a year. A lot of these guys who are jumping into the portal, they're looking for a place to land, greener pasture, new beginnings. Some are going to get paid really well. Some are going to be looking for a place to land when everything's said and done. A lot of these guys end up kind of like in the ether, floating around, waiting. I hope they know what they're doing. But as far as some Trojans who have decided to move on to the next chapter in their life, and we wish them well, because once a Trojan, always a Trojan. And none of these guys, none of these names that I'm going to mention ever created any type of challenges, conflict, or put themselves in a bad light. So, again, you just wish everybody good luck in their life, and you hope they do well. So, first off, the first guy that we heard about was Julian Simon. And then he was quickly followed by linebacker Taylor Katoa. Neither have had an impact at USC since they've been here. Katoa, he came back after serving his 2-year Norman mission, and then he's been dealing with injuries. He literally never saw the field. And if he did, I apologize. It was probably on special teams. Julian Simon, he saw some time on special teams action, but he just never found a home between playing safety and most this year at linebacker. I think he gained weight and just never was. They weren't able to find a home for him, and that's too bad because he's a pretty athletic guy. In high school he played on both sides, offense and defense. He was a running back too. So they're moving on, and again, good luck to them. Two names that sort of I think kind of jumped out and surprised everybody when they appeared in the portal were Raylan Goforth and safety Xavier Alford. Now, last year in 2021, Xavier Alford had like 3 interceptions, but that was in a different scheme, different coaching staff. And this year he's been dealing with injuries since the spring. And then he kind of just became a ghost around the practice when the team's out there. Eventually, Lincoln addressed the situation and said he had a medical procedure. Well, we now know that Xavier is moving on. As far as Raylan Goforth, I think that's the biggest shock so far. He played a lot this year. And, I think I mentioned it. He had the hit of the game against Utah. Everyone remembers Cam Rising's helmet coming off. Look, Raylan, he's not the fastest, not the biggest, but he plays with passion, and he leaves it all out there. You're never going to question his effort or his love for USC. So his goodbye tweet, basically, when he announced he was leaving, he said, "Thank you to all the coaches that I've had the pleasure of working with. In my time here at USC, through the ups and the downs, I remained loyal to the soil because this place is too special to be anything less than great. So Raylan's moving on. It sounds like it was mutual. And I only hope for the best for Raylan because he's just a guy. It's hard not to like the. He loved his time as a Trojan. I'm going to miss covering him as a member of the media. But it doesn't look like USC is going to be. Let me put it this way: maybe Raylan's moving on because his replacement was waiting at the door. WeRSC.com's Scott Schrader noted and let the subscribers know over there that former Temecula, California, and Linfield Christian athlete and current Washington State linebacker Travion Brown has entered the transfer portal. He made that announcement over the weekend. And the 6'3", 230-pound junior, he's got another year of eligibility left. He had 49 tackles, 5 for loss, and 1.5 sacks, and a fumble recovery this year for the Cougars. He made the announcement that USC is offered, and he's actually making a visit to USC. So, with all that said, let's just assume he's going to be a Trojan eventually. At Washington State, he missed. This is a stat I think everyone's going to really like. Had just a 3.1% missed tackle percentage versus the run this season. So compare that to USC's tackling issues. Shane Lee, he missed 15.4% of his tackles against the run. The aforementioned Raylan Goldforth, 25%. Eric Gentry, 15%. So any help USC can get, take it. And it sounds like help is waiting at the door. As I mentioned, Scott Schrader let everybody know that Monday morning that Brown plans to visit USC next week. So today's the first day that transfers can begin regular contact with coaching staffs, take visits, and commit to a school. So we're going to keep you updated as more names come across or come to our attention, either through Locked On USC, via me, or on WeRSC.com. Now, while USC feels good about landing Travion, he's got a connection. His former high school coach at Linfield Christian, Deshaun Burns, he played football at USC. He was a safety. And he was also a baseball player. And he, I believe, he's going to probably tell Travion that if you're going to leave Washington State, USC is probably a good landing spot for you. Justin Flo, another linebacker, is in the portal. Ended up at Oregon. Everyone knows the local stud from Upland High School. Well, here's my only question, 2 questions. Can he stay healthy, and can he be coached up at this level? Look, in high school, Justin basically physically just assaulted the opponent. And I say that, I don't mean that in a mean way. He physically and scared other players. He was that dominating. But he also never played a full season in high school or in college yet because he might be too physical for his own good. So at the college level, you've got to be more than just a brute, bully, gooch type of guy. You got to be able to. You got to be more cerebral. And that's what I'm saying. He needs to be coached up still at this level. Maybe Brian Odom is the guy to get it done. We'll see. It sounds like he wanted to be a Trojan out of high school. It sounds like he's getting a second opportunity. We'll see if he becomes a Trojan. So as I said, look, we're out of time. We're going to keep everybody updated as the transfer portal goes along. It's just open. More names are going to pop up. More players are going to leave USC. More players are going to want to come to USC. We will keep you updated here on Locked On USC because we're coming at you 5 days a week. And we're going to have another episode coming up tomorrow. So until then, Trojan fans, you know what to do.